Hello, everybody. Dave Neal here, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Nation News. It doesn't end for Chris Harrison in his most dramatic podcast ever, making headlines. Calls out creator of The Bachelor, Mike Fleiss, says narcissists don't star in The Bachelor, they create it. We're going to get into this right now. Follow me on Instagram at DNeals, patreon.com/Dave Neal for behind-the-scenes bonus content every afternoon, Bachelor Rush Hour, the hit podcast. Link in the comment section or go to BachelorRushHour.com. All right, Los Angeles Times has picked up this story, so you know it's good. Or what that means is we live in a world where newspapers have to pick up on drama, gossip, entertainment news to keep driving traffic to their paid subscription version of their paper. It's a dying world, folks. Chris Harrison says narcissists don't star in The Bachelor. So they got that article. Now, we're not going to read the article. We're going to listen to what he actually said after we play several of the clips from his Instagram. So let's listen to his Instagram clips, then we'll get to the actual content.
There is more to this story, more to this than what was kind of quietly put out Tuesday morning, the day after the finale.
And of course, the day after the finale being the Mike Fleiss story. And a commenter says, I've stopped watching the show. I figured if Chris Harrison could move on from it, so can I. Just the end of a chapter. Tracy said, I enjoy listening to your podcast, but I really thought you would be giving us more dirt on The Bachelor and Bachelorette. Yeah, look, I mean, he's got to be careful. It's mutually assured destruction. By the way, at the end of this video, I'm going to share with you some crazy tea that I heard about what the producers on The Bachelor do to keep people awake for the long rose ceremony. It's an allegation, so it's all alleged. Don't sue me. I'm going to share that with you guys at the end of this video. So listen back for that. I heard it yesterday from somebody's mouth in person. It's fascinating stuff. Okay, so let's go to our next clip. He interviewed Megan King, and she asked about Bachelorette Narcissists.
Do you think that there's been any Bachelor or Bachelorette narcissists?
Oh, man. That's a good question.
All right, we'll get to his answer right after this.
I'm not a judgy guy, but this doesn't seem that healthy either.
Why?
So I don't even know who Megan King is, but it's interesting that Chris Harrison's friends with her and he calls her out. She explains her relationship where they're not official and they would cheat on each other, but they don't want to. And he's like, I don't think this is healthy. It's actually interesting. I mean, look, Chris Harrison's entitled to his point of view. You're entitled to listen to his podcast or not. But of course, I'm enjoying just the clips. I couldn't listen to the full thing, which is why I love my podcast, Bachelor Rush Hour, where we just play the clips. Vanderpump Rules, American Idol, Love is Blind, Bachelor. Pretty much anything that's interesting to me, I'm banking on it being interesting to you, and you can check that out. Because, look, you guys might not know this. Some of it lines up. Some of it's overlap. Every Bachelor Rush Hour podcast, I will share, I don't know, 40% of things I already had on YouTube. But as I'm making content throughout the day, news stories come up that we didn't get to and we cover them there. Like this story, we only covered this on Bachelor Rush Hour, the podcast. Bachelorette alumni drugged, robbed, beaten in Colombia. I mean, it's a fascinating story. We just haven't gotten to it over here. All right, let's go to Chris Harrison. So they talk about narcissism in two different segments. The first one, they bring it up and don't necessarily address who they're talking about, but then we learn on the second clip that he's actually talking about Mike Fleiss. Have a listen.
He loves them as much as he's able, and he does as much as he's able. And every night I pray with my kids, and one of the things we pray for every night is to always try our best. And I think that their dad might be doing that.
That's his best.
Maybe, yeah.
For a self-centered narcissist.
Yeah. Right.
I have had intimate dealings with a narcissist, and when you deal with that, it is because I think most people think, like, people say, oh, Donald Trump's a narcissist. He's just this self-centered guy that wants all the attention. It's not just someone who wants all the attention. That's not really the true basis of how dark and deep narcissism goes. If you really study it, it usually comes from fragility. It usually comes from something traumatic in their lives.
Right.
And it's just this, I try to give people the example of it. It's like a bag of sand that you're trying to fill up, but there's a hole in the bottom.
Yeah,
and so you're never going to fill that bag of sand up. You can't love enough. You can't live enough. You can't laugh enough. Eventually, if you put in a lot of sand, you're like, oh, it's getting higher. it's always going to come back down.
Now, that's a very sinister way to look at narcissism. Maybe he's right, but maybe people that have narcissistic traits could change. Maybe they just need a whole bunch of mushrooms. I don't know. Don't they say mushrooms? I've never had mushrooms, but I'd for sure be willing to try them. But don't they say that mushrooms rewire your like neuro pathways? Either way, you know what I just found out recently? I just found this out that boomers suffer from lead poisoning. Did you guys know this? I'm trying to write some stand-up jokes about it because boomers hold all of the country's wealth, and I blame Reagan. You can blame whoever you want, but it turns out because of lead that was put in gasoline in the 60s, 70s, and even early 80s, boomers, for the most part, at least in the United States, if they've been around vehicles, suffer from low levels of lead poisoning, which has lowered their IQ 2.6%. How fascinating is that? Lead poisoning has neurotoxic, it causes neurotoxic issues. Basically, it hurts your brain. And it's led people to be, no pun intended, it's led people to be more aggressive. So next time you're fighting with any of your family on Thanksgiving, don't get mad at them. Just tell them, hey, sorry you suffer from lead poisoning. Either way, is Chris Harrison old enough to be a boomer? I don't believe, maybe, I don't know. I've got a big boomer audience. Don't get mad at me. But if you do, I'll understand. You've suffered from lead poisoning. And look, my generation, boomers are worth 10 times as much money as my generation. My generation is absolutely effed. We can't buy homes. We can barely survive. And I know you're going to say, well, quit drinking Starbucks. Shut up, Grandma. The point being is that, all right, you're wealthy. Let us make fun of your stupidity for once, okay? Like my dad, he only reads the headlines of news articles. But you can't blame him. He can't read the smaller font because lead poisoning leads to blurred vision. All right, folks, don't have blurred vision and hit the like button on this video. Let's go to the second part here. Here's where Chris Harrison discusses who, in fact, is a narcissist.
Store or online.
Oh, hold on. We got to get through the advertisement.
Sincerely,
we'll get there. Here we go.
Sincerely, Vaughn's.
Bring it to us.
Jewelry should be personal.
Great. Good. All right. Well, I'll stall you for 5 more seconds here.
Liberation.
Every time. See, the problem is I have the time code set, but every time you refresh it, it kind of clicks to a different place in the podcast.
That next to a homicidal.
Let's go back.
Oh, I don't want to say never, but that's a good question.
All right. So she just asked the question we already heard. Who do you believe in Bachelor Nation is a narcissist?
The creator of the show was.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa. Mike Fleiss.
Severely. And again, one of the toughest things about narcissism is you will never, I don't want to say never, but very rarely will that person ever recognize that in themselves.
Which is hard because when you call someone else a narcissist, couldn't you also be one? Like Chris Harrison could be a narcissist. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist. I don't know these things. I don't have you don't have to be a psychologist to think someone else is a narcissist, but these are heavy words to throw at people. We're going to be having a chat with Dr. Diane Strakowski. So maybe we'll get her opinion on narcissism within the Bachelor world.
Right. That's like
I was talking to one therapist about narcissism, and she said, I'm just warning you that next to a homicidal maniac, like narcissism is the toughest thing to treat. That to have someone self-realize and actually fix that is next to impossible. It just rarely happens, which is scary. So if you are in that kind of a toxic relationship, you should think about exiting and getting yourself out of it. But I was trying to think of bachelors. Honestly, I don't think none come to mind because that's not really how you get to be the bachelor. It's kind of people
you have to be open.
Yeah, you have to be open. You have to be unlucky in love. You have to be ready to express yourself.
Also, the show picks the bachelor. Now, if a narcissist had the ability to pick the bachelor, maybe they'd pick themselves, but the show picks the bachelor, and they're not looking for people with those traits. They're looking for people that are highly suggestible, highly agreeable. They're looking for people that they can manipulate, really. The disorder narcissism is named for the mythological figure Narcissus, who fell in love with his own reflection. According to Sigmund Freud, narcissism is a normal stage in child development, but it is considered a disorder when it occurs after puberty. Yeah, kids are freaking selfish, aren't they? Wah, feed me, take me to the park.
And so a narcissist really wouldn't work very well. It's probably not someone we would cast. Yeah.
What they need is a codependent person or someone with anxious attachment. That's what they need.
Well, I don't know. Sometimes I don't watch The Bachelor, but I read articles about it.
Good.
And I think in recent years, I don't know if I'm getting older or they're getting more immature, but when I read about what they're saying and stuff, I'm like, how do people watch this? It's like so immature and basic.
I don't watch the show. I just read from other people who watch it, and here's my opinion on the show I don't watch. I don't watch baseball, but I feel like it's boring. But I've never watched it, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah, it changed dramatically. Even in the 20 years I was doing it, obviously I've been gone for about 2.
We know.
And I always thought the same thing. Am I getting to be the old guy, like get off my lawn guy?
Yes.
Right.
Or are these conversations I'm listening to just getting more and more inane? And I'm like,
yeah, look, vocal fries, more. I mean, look, language changes, right? We don't talk like we're from the, you know what I mean? It's like, I do declare, we don't know. It changes, it flows. And plus, you're picking people that might exist in a world, this younger. There's a lot of just, terminology. Hey, I'm a lot younger than Chris Harrison. I don't know half the words they say, When you agree with something, you say bet. What does that mean? You know what I mean? And this is giving what? They just took words out.
With the vocal fry voice and the, lack of vocabulary and poor grammar and all those things that started driving me crazy. I'm like, wow, I really am becoming my grandfather.
Yeah, it's like, is the generation that's on The Bachelor getting dumber, or are you just picking dumber people to be on the show? Oh, I did promise the tea I would give you. Oh, I almost left without telling you. So I was out somewhere yesterday, and people know I cover The Bachelor, and people that aren't in the community. One guy or gal, I should say, oh boy, gave the gender away. A person who I won't identify said they had a friend who was on the show, and they explained that producers, again, these are allegations that were told to me. They said producers oftentimes would give contestants bumps of the old booger sugar, the devil's lettuce. No, not the devil's lettuce. That's marijuana. Booger sugar, which is cocaine. And they would give them to contestants as a little bump to stay loose and limber and nimble before their rose ceremonies, because they would go all night. Do I think there's just a sort of pile of coke that hangs out, next to the rose ceremony? No, I don't think that. But it would explain some of the contestants' aggressive behavior on the show. Let me know what you guys think. I mean, hey, and again, what it probably was one of the producers who did coke knew one of the contestants who did coke. I was like, here, try some of this. Like, I'm sure it was something like that. But gosh, could you imagine? That could be terrible. So the point being is Chris Harrison's not going to spill all of the drama because Mike Fleiss also has the receipts. It would be mutually assured destruction. My guess is when they were traveling through Europe, just my guess, there was a lot of like burlesque shows and adult entertainment and drugs that were done off hours amongst all the some of the producers that would go to the different countries. My guess is it was like when they go to, I don't know, Scandinavia, it was an excuse for the producers to get away from their family and have a little fun. I don't know. I don't think we'll ever get the true story. Maybe one day the Most Dramatic Podcast with Chris Harrison will live up to its name. In the meantime, you can check out my content, bachelorrushhour.com. Link in the comment section. Also, going live right after this, patreon.com/Dave Neal.